and welcome to the 5%ers. I'm joined as ever by my co-host, the wonderful Daniela Ginas. Every week we discuss an inspiring book that we're reading that invites us towards our goal of becoming a 5%er. This week Daniela and I are reading Grinding It Out, Ray Kroc, the story of McDonald's. So few entrepreneurs can claim to have actually changed the way that we live, but Ray Kroc is one of those people. His resolution in food service, automation, franchising, shared national training and advertising has earned him the place beside people who not only founded businesses but entire industries. Oh, and by the way, he started it at 52 years old. So there's no excuse for anybody who thinks it's too late. So it's a story of how McDonald's came to become the company that it is. Because we've always kind of known McDonald's as like, I've always known McDonald's to be there, right? And it's always just been there, but you never really think that it started from somewhere. Like, how did it start? How did it become this huge monolith, right? What were your thoughts? What do you think of the book?
I love the book.
Yeah?
I thought it was an amazing book.
Okay.
Ray Kroc, who wrote it and who is the visionary, because he wasn't actually the founder of McDonald's. He was the founder of McDonald's as we know it.
Yeah.
But there were two brothers,
the
McDonald's brothers, that actually started the franchise.
Who were kind of waste men.
You can't call them waste men.
To a certain extent.
They just didn't have
limited vision.
They had very limited vision, but they were the ones that developed the franchise. Well, not the franchise, the system-based business.
Yeah.
In terms of creating, what do you call it?
Like a production
line for creating the burgers, which is what Ray Kroc then saw.
Yeah.
And decided to franchise it out.
Yeah.
But the book was, to me, it was just phenomenal. What really got me was I realised about halfway through that Ray Kroc died before I was even born.
When did he die?
He died in January 1984.
Did he?
And I was born in September 1984. But reading the book, I never would have known that. It's weird. It's written in such a way that it's still... He could have written it yesterday. Obviously, there's certain things, like he doesn't talk about social media, for example, but it's just very, very relevant.
In what way? Give me some examples.
It just seems fresh.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem outdated. Like I've read books that were written, I don't know, in the past. Well, all books are written in the past, but you know what I mean, like many years ago. And you can tell they feel dated. Whereas this book doesn't. It
still feels current.
Yeah, and he's old. When he wrote this, he was like 70 something. But he sounds like a young man.
Was he 70 when he wrote this? Wow, that's crazy.
He wrote this 7 years before he died.
No way.
So he was an old man when he wrote this book.
Yeah.
But you don't get that feeling.
Yeah.
And I think it says it somewhere. Marvellous, zesty read filled with optimism and enthusiasm.
Definitely.
And that's how it feels. You feel like he just is energetic and he's ready to
Everything
go.
is possible.
And even in the end where he's talking, because towards the end he talks about his health issues and different things. But even when he's talking about them, he still sound very upbeat and energetic.
That's just his personality, I think.
Yeah.
Like, you can see that from a very early age when he started running other businesses that failed. It's a true entrepreneur's book, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, because you can relate to so many different things.
So many different things. So what does he mean by grinding it out? What does that actually mean?
I think it's going through the hard slog and the blood, sweat and tears trying to build your business. So his grinding out happened, as you said, a number of stages because he had a number of businesses and didn't actually form McDonald's until he was in his 50s. So the grinding out is all that work that he put in until he got the success he got with McDonald's. And I was reading it like, I think I'm in the grinding out
phase.
I don't know if I'm going to have anything as big as McDonald's. I don't know if I would. That's also what was interesting about reading this book. Made me start to think, I don't know if I would want to, because when he talks about the relationship that he missed out on with his daughter because he was just working constantly.
All hours that God sends,
constantly.
18 hours a day, 20 hours a day.
I don't think I want that.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing to me that this guy's been dead for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I still, I don't personally go to McDonald's, but there's still a McDonald's everywhere in England.
They have a huge legacy, and it's obviously not. There are other competitors that are taking their market share now, right? They're not as big as what they were in like the 90s and the early 2000s. I don't think.
But it doesn't matter. They're internationally renowned fabric of
society, of America, of capitalism, of what it means to be an entrepreneur. Like that's what it means. When you hear McDonald's, you hear America, you hear freedom, you hear everything related to kind of entrepreneurship and free enterprise, which is fantastic. So the legacy of the company is on without question.
But then what is also sad is his daughter died like several years before him, and he only had one daughter. So, and I don't know if she had any children, but it's very sad to think that although the legacy is there in McDonald's, his personal family lineage kind of stopped. I think that's really, because really, for me, I do this to create a legacy for my children and my children's children. If you don't have that, well, I guess he was very philanthropic, and his wife was very philanthropic. So I guess
which wife?
His last wife.
His last one.
She gave away pretty much all of the money before she died, in a range of fantastic causes. But I don't know. I feel like there's something about having your children. Like, there's no one walking around saying the person that created McDonald's is my dad, who's my granddad. Although I don't know that for a fact, but I'm assuming not. And that, I think, is quite sad.
It's a bit of a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what were some of the struggles he went through before he founded McDonald's? Can you talk about some of those stresses? Because he did have a number of ventures that kind of failed. So he was selling these paper cups.
He was doing quite well selling paper cups for the Lily Tulip Company.
Yeah.
Him and his boss, however, kept butting heads.
Yeah.
Which is obvious. He's an entrepreneur. He isn't somebody that needs to have a boss. So it would stand to reason that him and the boss would consistently butt heads.
Right.
Then he started.
He was always going to his boss with his ideas. Look, we should do this, and his boss was like, no,
not having it at all.
Okay.
Which I guess is what a boss typically does, because it's not your vision; it's their vision.
He gave a funny story where, because he was like the head salesman of this paper cup sales company, he was outselling everyone else, and there was a kind of recession or depression at the time, and the company asked everyone to take a certain percentage pay cut. And he was like, me, the master salesperson, like the one that's bringing the most of the money, you want me to take a pay cut as well? And the boss is like, well, we're taking pay cuts, like the management team. And he's like, yeah, you can. It just shows the attitude of the guy. But I can identify with that attitude as being a salesperson, because you are paying people's wages. Like, you're bringing money into the company and they're asking you to take a pay cut. Like, I get it.
Without me, there wouldn't be any pay.
There wouldn't be any pay at all. So, but it's a fine line though between being really arrogant, because on one hand you can kind of look at it and go, listen, take a pay cut, like everyone else is taking a pay cut. It's fair. But on the other hand, it's like, well, I'm the one that's paying for everyone's wages,
But I guess it's that thing about knowing your value.
Yeah.
And actually, I think he was very clear on the value that he brought to the company, to all of the companies that he worked with. And I think that's what made him very successful.
Yeah.
Because there were certain things that he refused to budge on.
Yeah.
Because he knew he was right, because he knew his insight.
Yeah.
And I think that was quite amazing, that he was so confident in his and grounded in his conviction.
One thing that I really got from this was the fact that the guy is not a university educated guy. He's not really well read or well educated generally. He comes from very humble beginnings, and yet he created this massive empire. And I think one of the reasons why he did that is because he worked really hard. Like, I think you can be talented and you can have gifts and you can have natural abilities, but if you marry that with like hard work, someone that works harder than you is always going to beat you. And this guy just... Not
to cut you, but my favourite quote in the whole book, and probably in many of the books that we've read, it's on page 201, and he says, press on. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts, which cracks me up. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. And that, I read that and I'm like, it's true. And this is the problem. So many of us think, oh, we're talented, I've been to university, or I'm very clever. Yeah. But actually, all of those things are redundant if you are not willing to be determined and to persevere and work hard. Yeah. And I think he epitomises that, and that's why I think that quote for me epitomised him and the book and his whole journey. Like, it really was. As you said, he wasn't educated. He just had a very good eye for spotting opportunity and then just
going after it
as hard as possible to bring it to fruition.
And also, Ella, getting good people around him. It goes back to that Good to Great book.
Yes.
Get bad people off the bus and get good people on the bus. That book is really... I'm going to have to go back to that book again. It's so good, because I'm seeing so many other themes in other books that we're reading. So Good to Great basically says, in order to be a great company, you need to get rid of people that aren't adding any value and get the right people on. And he was very good at identifying talent, people that were really hard work. So like there was a guy that was like 25 or something when he first came to him, and then he became the president of McDonald's, I think, later on. But when he came, he wasn't really anything special, but he saw something in the kid to say, yeah, this guy's he's gonna be something. Yeah.